Hey guys, we made it to another Friday, or as we like to say in the Tech Degenerates Discord, what is it? It's Friday, Sailor. Congratulations. We need that GIF. It hasn't been posted
I,
yet today.
I am so happy that that's the new standard as opposed to Rebecca Black that it used to be. So
Yes, big improvement.
Yep.
yes, how are you guys doing?
Man, it feels like we just did this yesterday. I don't know how it's been 7 days since this last one. Like it's flying by.
Yes, time is flying, and I don't know about you guys. Another one of those weeks I could use an extra day. Like I'm kind of excited it's Friday, but I have a lot left to cram into a few hours.
Yeah, no, that's very much the same. I've been on the road this week, but got to have some good discussions with friends Kyle Spooner and Dustin Bolander and several others. So busy week, but it's good. Um, Cubs are up, so I'm not ashamed to wear their gear right now. So all is right
Yeah,
in the
Cubs
world.
are looking good. Mets are
I mean,
looking good.
baseball's good and all, but it's hockey playoffs. Which, come on, guys, it's hockey playoffs. So, the Avalanche are down 2 games to 1. So, I mean, hopefully they turn it around against the Stars. I mean, to me, anything like south of Oklahoma that has a hockey team, they should just be immediately disqualified. Like, I know the Florida Panthers are the favorites, but they don't even have ice there unless they're going to Disney on Ice. It's not fair that they get to be an ice powerhouse. They need to be like Arizona. They're doing it right. They suck at hockey, but they're fun. Okay. That's what should happen with all of those southern states. Leave the hockey for the northern part of the United States to have fun in. I mean, poor Minnesota.
Yeah.
Come on. If any team is going to break the Minnesota sports curse, it has to be the Wild, and they're up 2 games to 1 over the Knights. So, hockey playoffs. I love hockey, and hockey playoffs is some of the best times of the year.
I will say the Stars are looking good though.
Yeah, well, they need to stop it. Okay.
No, here it's I always say so New York is known as a baseball city, but whenever the Knicks are good, they take over the whole city. Like it's crazy, and that's the excitement. Like you hear the sports talk show in the morning, it's Knicks, 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 and like, oh yeah, Mets won.
You guys have like the Islanders and the Rangers too. I mean, come on. They're not in the playoffs though, so.
Yeah. I'm telling you, you should
I
have
hope
gone.
the Rangers lose every game from now till eternity.
All right. Well, we have a guest this week. Let's bring him in.
Hey everyone.
The one and only Mr. Dave Alton. How are you today,
Hey.
sir?
I don't know. Am I the only? Technically, I'm not because my dad's Dave Alton too. So, yeah. So I'm
not the
really
one and only.
I'm not the one and only. Thanks
so
for having
no
me
Highlander
on,
moment.
Probably not.
Well, Dave,
how have you been?
I've been good. I can't complain. I mean, I can complain, but nobody's gonna listen to that or want to really. So, how about you?
No argument here.
Doing good, Josh. I'll let you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Dave, do you want to give a quick introduction for anybody who might not know who you are?
Oh, doesn't everybody know me? I mean, come on.
We operate off of that assumption, just in case.
So I'm Dave Alton. I run or help to run an MSP here in Southern California. Pretty involved in a lot of the communities you all are in. I help out on some of the Trustmark working groups, and last year I was the chair for the Global Cybersecurity Task Force at GTIA.
Cool.
So he sends a lot of email in my direction.
Yeah, yep. I do bug Matt quite a lot actually recently. So,
more importantly, though, what are your thoughts on baseball and hockey?
Yeah, so my Kings are still in it. We're gonna end up facing the Knights or I forget the team they're playing. Probably the Wild. We're probably getting our butts kicked in the second round. So I'm paying a lot of attention to the Lakers. Minnesota Timberwolves could look really good. They could blow the Lakers out here the first round. So we'll see.
They're a Minnesota sports team.
Yeah, and I don't even want to talk about the Cubs right now because that was a bad series there in Chicago. So
yeah, you guys came in with quite a lot of fanfare there, shutting down, was it Clark Street, I think.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, there were Freddie chants at Wrigley Field, which was pretty epic. If you're a Freddie fan, it was like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone likes Freddie. Even your rivals have to like him.
Yeah, he's a great guy. The other one that's like kind of transcends people is Tommy Edman. He's another one he's just a great guy. He's super chill and relaxed, and he's doing his thing. So
we'd also be remiss. I mean, the draft happened last night, but we don't have time to talk about it. That's for next show. So let's get into our first topic here, since this is MSP Community Live and not Sports Community Live here. So our first topic is it's Henry.
Usually close-up of Henry.
The first topic is about something that we do hit every now and then when talking about the show, when we talk about firing a client. At what point is it worth firing a client, and what is your process? I have a client who always pays late, always questions everything, and always tries to come up with their own solution, like wanting to back up 7 terabytes of data daily onto an external drive and take it home because they don't trust the cloud. I feel like the risk is high if something breaks. So in your organization or any previous organizations, do you have a set process over like, hey, this is the last line here and they're gone? Or what does that process look like? Have you guys ever fired a client?
Ever? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going through this. We're going through this right now. So it's really top of mind for me, but we sit down. So we're late pay situation. They're, 18 grand in the hole. They've got a lot of different things going on, and they're trying to save because they're struggling. And so it really depends on the client, right? If they're a long-term client and we see value in, them coming out of this at the end, we'll make some accommodations and move things around. But when they start really kind of cutting into what we call, core services, we have to have a pretty serious conversation with them and just say, look, we can only do this amount for this long, for this much. And, sometimes it doesn't work out, and you find ways to separate where, you be professional about it and make it as easy as possible. But, it happens, and it should be looked at. And we definitely look at the profit angle too, right? Like if it's an underwater client and they're a late pay and they're doing all their own solution finding, sometimes it's just not worth keeping around because there is a lot of risk to it.
Yeah, I think there's kind of gets to the whole like giving a letter grade to your clients in how you have that criteria set. I know a gentleman with an MSP that he's got a internal rule set up so that anyone that scores, I think for them it's a D or lower, they let go. And then anyone that is in their bottom 5% of clients, as far as letter grade each year, they also let go. So different approaches to it, but I agree with Dave. I mean, it does depend a little bit about what you see in the value and long term with that client, but absolutely, we have an established process for that. But we'll make exceptions if it there is a long-standing relationship and there is value there. And I think a lot of that comes down to communication, like how upfront are they being with you, and is it a matter of finances, or is it a matter of them questioning your expertise and undermining the trust in the relationship? So
the other thing though too is at some point. Go ahead. All yours.
We need our timer on the screen. I would agree with both of those. The only thing I'll add before I turn it over to you, Josh, because it's similar, is for us, there were a couple of things that were like almost instant fire, and that was like disrespecting our techs. And like if there were cases where, that client where the phone rings and your engineers are looking at it like, oh man, they're calling again. Like if you get to that point and you're pretty sure that the relationship isn't salvageable, even a profitable client would go at that point. And the key to that, though, is the relationship isn't salvageable, right? You don't want to fire a client because they have one horrible employee. And I'll let you guys talk about the rest of it. There are also some occasionally technical non-negotiables, right? You won't turn on MFA for anything, you're gone.
Yep. I was gonna say, to addition to is at some point they do become a risk to our organization, whether they're not following whatever standards they are. I mean, to Henry's point, maybe they're at a too low of a grade, but at some point, if the client just becomes too much of a risk to keep on, then you have to have the difficult conversations. There's things to look at, profitability and whatever the NPS score might be and things like that. But ultimately, if you're the service provider on that, it's kind of your reputation on the line as well for keeping them safe for that. And if there's anything that does happen to them, whether you have the hey, I told you so, or the cover your ass emails or not, like they're going to blame you because you're supposed to be protecting the environment, and it just doesn't make you look good. So if it is too big of a risk, if they're not even qualified for cyber insurance, whatever that line in the sand that you want to draw, but make that process and don't be afraid to have the hard conversation. Not all revenue is good revenue.
No, I'd be curious, how have you guys seen your line in the sand change over the years, or has it remained a constant?
I think our line in the sand fluctuates depending on our cash flow.
That's a good point, though.
That's
reality.
Look, I mean, when we have these conversations with our clients, we generally don't want to lose them. Most of our clients are very long-term clients. We don't have too many that are like brand new. And the ones that are brand new, I don't really mind losing. I think our big line in the sand has been, we've started to see this this shift of finding value in IT versus, oh, this is just something I have to pay for. So when we start to see a client kind of late pay and question stuff, and maybe they're rude to well, we don't really take that too much. You're kind of automatically gone there. But when we start to see people do that, we sit down and have a conversation with them and go, look, you're one person, your revenue isn't really enough for us to take your BS, right? Like, so you're gotta, pony up, pay on time, be a good client, respect us, or you can find that somewhere else. And we work really hard at making our services affordable, not cheap at all, but affordable. And we know what people need most of the time. So we're not trying to screw anyone over, take advantage of people. We really are doing what we think is the, best right thing for the client. If they don't like that, then, it's a lot easier to fire them. But I will say cash flow affects that line in the sand quite a lot.
Yeah,
firing a client does does come from a privileged base, because at some point, especially when you're first starting out, then you do need kind of any revenue and any cash flow that you can get. But it does become a point where you can't grow, or it's affecting profitability, it's affecting efficiency to have one of those bad clients, and you do have to let them go. But speaking about small MSPs, we can go ahead and go to the next story, where these might be the type of people that do need all of that revenue, and they're wondering, should they be open about being one person, or should they say my team and I? Do you think it makes a difference when they're just starting out and working with the clients, if they just say, hey, it's me or my team? What do you guys think on this topic?
I mean, if you say that, you're going to get found out eventually and look bad. Like, I think it's as simple as that. I'm a big believer in not sugarcoating or whatever idiom you want to use for that. If it's just you, say it's just you, because that looks a lot better than saying my team and I, and then saying, oh, I'm the only one in the office when the phone goes to voicemail all the time, right? Like, you can't lie to clients. Like, just don't do it in general.
Well, what if you do the fake it till you make it? I'm picturing the Better Call Saul where he answers as like his receptionist. And then have you seen? Are you familiar with the show, Matt?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, what if you do that?
You have to put on a
It
wig
works
while you
until
do
it doesn't.
Yeah, that's true.
I do think it's look. I struggle with this because if you're set up right, if you're set up right as a solo shop, you do have a team probably, right? You've got some kind of outsourced cybersecurity services. You probably have some contractors that are helping you out. So I think if you're really a solo guy and you're trying to do this on your own, I wouldn't lie about like it's just me. But if you've got I don't know, ConnectWise is the kind of your back end, that is your team, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's people you hired, but they are the people that do work for you. So I think it's a fine line. I think it's okay to say team if you really do have others helping you in whatever capacity that is. But if you're a solo guy and you're doing break fix and you're just coming in, you're wiring a network, and you say me and my team, like, I don't know, that just feels disingenuous.
Yeah, I think the way we approached it as when I started out is I used we as a statement when talking with clients, but I was also very upfront of like, hey, it's me and I've got contractors and a network of resources that I can call on as I built out. But from a marketing message, it was always a we instead of I.
So really goes back to the age old, it depends, if you can pull it off and depending on how transparent that you want to be. But yeah, if you do have a team of contractors or an outsourced, MDR or something you're working with, and technically you do have a team behind you. So nothing really wrong with that. But we're going to go ahead and cut this one short because the next one could get pretty long here. And as soon as I saw this story, I was like, yep, this is going on the show. This is incredible. Using status fields correctly in your PSA or ERP or ITSM. Now, this is a long scroll, so I'm going to paraphrase here. Many MSPs overload statuses in their systems by using them to track things like ownership, priority, timing, etc. This often leads to confusion, messy automations, inconsistent reporting. Instead, statuses should reflect only when something is in its life cycle, nothing more. A streamlined universal status framework brings clarity, reduces noise, and makes automation reports more reliable. Keep statuses simple, distinct, and life cycle focused is the advice that this person's posting. But how easy is that? I mean, how is this a problem in your guys' MSPs or something that you've had to deal with? Anything you want to talk about? And get the soapboxes out. Like, this is your moment here. So we'll start with Henry.
Yeah, so I would say early on, yes, it was an issue for us until we started, kind of buying into the whole ITIL side of things, and that kind of changed how we approached it. I do think that we, with what we've standardized on now, we do probably go against this poster's request that you put things in notes as far as common things like awaiting payment or awaiting client type thing. Like we still have those as status options just because it's more frequent that we see those things. And quite honestly, it saves time for everyone instead of having to hop into the ticket to read that quick note and skip over it. So I don't know. How about you, Dave?
So up until about 3 years ago, we were, let's add a new status. But yeah, we saw a lot of issues with, trying to automate. So it makes sense. I really think this one goes back to, it depends. I think larger organizations probably need more statuses, right? Like because there's more people and there's more departments and there's more buckets to put things. Sometimes a status can really save a ton of time if I know exactly where it's at without having to read the whole ticket, right? Oh, I don't, as the CTO, I don't need to really pay attention to that ticket because it's in a, you know, awaiting, you know, vendor parts or something like that. But, you know, customer dissatisfaction, yeah, I'm probably jumping on that one, right? So, and I think that there are good reasons to have statuses that aren't necessarily life cycle, like especially around like you have a communication issue or an unhappy client and things like that, where okay, not only is it important that it people know that, but it's also important from a reporting standpoint. Is that, hey, I can look and see very quickly, hey, do I have anybody sitting in, you know, this is bad. Whatever status that is, right? This is bad. Someone probably a little higher up needs to look at that and pay attention to it. And I can create workflows around that and things like that.
So this post reminds me a little of that XKCD 15 competing standards thing. I think with statuses, it's like many other things in our organizations that the most important aspect of it is just to have a cohesive organizational plan for how you're going to use them and stick with it. Personally, I don't think there's one right way. I have seen a lot of organizations do different things with statuses, and some of them worked. So, oh, Henry is supporting our Dunkin' sponsor.
Yeah, sorry. I need my coffee today.
No, all good. It's one of those things that just putting some thought into what you're going to use them for. Are you putting updates and notes? Are you using statuses to indicate things? What is the workflow like? Just planning all of that out is more important than what the specific statuses are, in my opinion. It's like many things. We're just having some kind of plan and organization around this trumps the specific, like, what are they and do they match what I have in my org versus your org? Just taking the time to figure that out, I think is much more important. And I've seen, you know, organizations with tons and tons of like super detailed statuses, or ones that have almost identical ones to that post, and nobody uses them, or they, you know, end up using like types and subtypes for what statuses should, and like that's where the issue is. I think this poster may be putting a little too much thought into what specifically the statuses need to be, and maybe not. And he didn't say he wasn't, but if you're spending this much time on the statuses, just make sure that you're also spending time on organizational buy-in. I have found that to be more important.
Yeah, getting a tech to change status is a challenge.
Well, like Henry said, we're also an ITIL organization, so you know, statuses and things like that follow the life cycle of the ticket. But even when you're just starting out, I mean, following the KISS method, you know, keep it simple, silly or stupid or whatever you want to have that last SB. But I mean, you could do something as simple as new in progress, waiting, schedule complete. Bam, 5. That's all you need. You're good to go. That covers everything, and then from there, build out. But, you know, just like when it comes to cybersecurity, you know, following an operations framework can be helpful when determining this. Also getting your feedback on like, hey, what are we missing? What do you wish we had in here? What do you use? And then doing continuous improvement on that. So let's say you build it out and now you have 5 with 10 sub statuses, or maybe you have, you know, 10 with all these sub statuses. Do a report. Which ones aren't being used? You know, let's get rid of the ones that aren't being used. Which ones can be combined to make it simpler? So, you know, it's not a set and forget. You know, you have to work on the business or in the business at some point whenever you get the chance, when you're not fighting all of the fires from the clients. Anything else we want to talk about when it comes to ticket statuses?
Yeah, Josh, I think what you said is the best. Is just keep it simple, right? Like it doesn't have, statuses don't need to be complex for any reason whatsoever. In fact, the more complex they are, the less useful they become. So keep it simple, really straightforward, and I think it all works out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move to the new one here. Now, this story, I'm not going to talk about this story. I picked this story for a particular reason. So this comes to us from the RSys admin subreddit, where this person says, "Hey, I'm not liking the new IT guy." So they're working the same internal IT. They hired a new IT guy, and they don't like him. But what I want to talk about is, let's say we're in a co-managed situation and the new IT guy comes into that co-managed situation. Maybe they hire a new POC and you don't like them or you don't get along. How do you handle that situation? A, has that ever happened? If you can tell a story, and B, how do you handle that? So let's start with Dave on this one.
Oh, great! Put me on the hot spot. We don't have a ton of co-managed clients. So most of our clients we are their IT department. I've personally run into this throughout my career, and the new IT guy is always a struggle. But I also find that people hate change. They just hate it, and for whatever reason. Hiring a new guy doesn't always necessarily bring out the best in people, right? There's always some contention behind it. There's always like, oh, that's my playground, don't mess with it. And I think just being more open to people in general and trying to find ways to connect with them, a lot of that just goes away. Now, that's not to say there isn't bad. It happens, right? But if I'm the trusted advisor and I'm in a co-managed situation, I'm probably going to the IT director or the CEO or whomever it is and saying, hey, these are some of the criteria that we look for in our IT people, and we're not seeing this so much in your new IT person. Can we help level him up? Can we skill him up? Can we work with him to make him into the IT guy that you guys need? We definitely would take more that type of approach than, oh, let's go throw this guy under the bus and get him out of here, because oftentimes it's really the change that we're more worried about than the actual person.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Dave on that. We've run into this a couple times and had both outcomes of where, I suppose three outcomes of the new guy ended up accepting some coaching where that worked out. We've had the new guy fire us, and we've had the company fire the new IT guy. So it kind of depends, and I think it draws some importance around maintaining good relationships with the client beyond just a single point of failure. So for us, ensuring that we've got good discussions and all the decision makers when we are doing our TBRs with them, and maintaining that communication with them so that they know the reasoning behind a lot of the things that we want to do. Oftentimes it's not usually a technical issue with the new IT person. It may be a personality type of thing, which we'll try and overcome. But we'll only really kind of put our foot down with the other team members at that company really hard if like we had one instance where they wanted, the new person was recommending to go to back to shared logins for a medical facility, and removing MFA and poking all sorts of holes, and it was like, we can't service you as a client if you continue down this road. So that made it pretty cut and dry for them.
Nope, Matt, you're muted.
I was trying to not have my typing pick up, and so muted. So similar to Dave, we didn't have that much co-managed. We did have some, and frequently the relationship would start off a little rocky. And for us, it always seemed to be some type of like initial we needed to prove ourselves and they needed to prove themselves. Like it was really just an ego thing right at the beginning. And once we worked together for a few weeks to a few months, and it became clear of two things. One, both us and the IT person had some clue what they were doing, and two, that it really was a collaborative, not antagonistic. Like we weren't in there to try and get them fired, and vice versa. The relationship tended to improve, and so I think that's one thing to be aware of when you're dealing with a co-managed situation. The internal IT person is probably on the defensive right from the beginning, because in their mind, instead of hiring an MSP, that budget should be allocated to them to get staff. And if you can demonstrate that you're there to help and you're there, hey, if you're not alone anymore, you can bounce a problem off of us, you can bounce an idea off of us. We're not gonna like steal the thunder from you internally or in front of your executive leadership. That really goes a long way. And I think it's important just to try and get through that initial clashing of horns period and get to the point where you can work together. So not in every case, right? Sometimes there really is just a personality issue or it wasn't the right hire. But I found that it took a couple of months before the relationship really got solid in our co-managed clients. Just be aware of that as well. It can be a little rocky right when you start, even on ones that turn out to be really good long term.
Yeah,
I think we've seen
it really does all say it
Go
all
ahead.
comes down to communication. Communication is usually how you fix most of those problems. So hopefully, if you're in a co-managed situation, you have a good RACI model, which is the responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So those roles and responsibilities are clearly defined, and like Dave and Matt said, like, hey, it comes down to this is what we do, and we're an extension of your team, and we can help, and however we can help. But to Henry's point too, like if there are security risks with them, just like we talked about when firing a client, you can't be afraid to have hard conversations with them. I think what Dave said about, hey, like we're in your corner, maybe we can help train them up and collaborate and work with them is absolutely a great thing, because you're really going to sour the relationship. It's the same thing as if you come in pitching and your sales pitch is to bash other MSPs. If you're trying to wedge yourself in there by bashing the other IT people, you're just losing that trust, and it doesn't make you look good at all.
Yeah. I'm less concerned about a new IT guy coming in than I am a new CFO or a new CEO being appointed. That's harder to overcome, I think, in my mindset.
Yep.
Yeah, I also think that there's a misconception around what MSPs bring to the table, and a new CFO that comes in, he's trying to prove himself by, oh, let me see how much savings I can. Oh, look, there's this $6,000 a month that we're spending with these guys. Like, we can hire somebody for $6,000. I'm like, yeah, you can hire one person for $6,000 a month, but can you hire a team of 10? And do they have the expertise and things like that? So there is some education that needs to happen when you see those new executives come on and they want to make a name for themselves.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and hit switch topics here to this next one, and this is something that we definitely are aware of in the MSP world here. Maybe we're the person that this is talking about. So, employee self-inflicted burnout. This comes to us from the IT manager subreddit, and the synopsis here is this guy is an IT manager, and he has a really good employee, and he was the only one, but now they hired 3 people who are great, but they're just green. They're not experienced and things like that. And the issue though is that one employee, he just he cares too much. They're burning the candle at both ends. They're treating everything like an emergency, staying late, coming in early. We've had conversations saying, hey, you need to pace yourself. Like there's no pressure. You're doing a great job. Not everything is immediate attention. But then they I even tell them to go home, but they push back because they don't want to let users down. They don't want to have everything crumble. And then today when they posted this, that person actually had a meltdown, overwhelmed by the volume work and feeling like they can't keep up. So has this been you where you're doing a self-inflicted burnout? And if you were this manager over the staff, what are you telling this employee?
Yeah, it's definitely been me. Yeah, I think we've all done that. I think one of the most important things you can do as a manager on this is it's easy to say not everything is an emergency. You don't have to, go save the world. But you have to demonstrate that if you do the job you're supposed to, like not reward being Superman too much. And it's very easy to say, hey, don't stay late, but by the way, that was awesome that you took care of all these fires and emergencies and clients are happy or awesome, right? Everyone else is going to see that and say, hey, the way to get ahead is to stay and work all night. And it becomes this self-fulfilling thing where that leads to positive reinforcement. And next thing you know, your whole team is burned out. I've seen some organizations to the point of like making the employee go home, right? And say, you have to stop working. Sadly, or whatever term you want to use, the most effective thing for this in almost everyone I've seen has been to actually burn out and after the fact get your stuff under control. And it's a little sad, and I'm curious if the rest of you have better ideas to avoid it. But in most of the cases I've seen, that's what really gets someone to start taking this seriously. Kind of the same way that the budget for security materializes after an incident, the self-care budget, if you will, starts to come around after you've burned out.
Well, and I mean, to me, this goes really back to my time in the restaurant industry as well. But even just working in the IT, you kind of like you have two options here. Is you can lock the door and you're the manager said, hey, I'm telling you to go home early, but then he gets pushed back. Like, don't make it an optional. Like, you will go home. Like I'm going to disable your account. And what was funny is I've had a manager do that because this is me. Like I've gotten better at it as I go, but like I just I want to be available. I don't like letting people down and things like that. And I literally had a manager who's like, you are like going for 2 days. Like, we got this. I'm disabling your account so you can't even log in. Like, go. And it helps. But the other side too, to Matt's point, is like you crank the stove up and I mean they realize the burnout, get them to they get to the point because some people just they need that, and then let them know that you're there and obviously you take whatever time they need, but maybe they do need to reach that breaking point, unfortunately, before changes make.
Yeah, great question, Begley. That's I think cuts into whether or not this is an issue with the employee or an issue with the support that they have.
Yeah, I think the one way that this is, I don't want to say fixed it because it took time to fix, but I had an employee that was very good, great at their job, did fantastic work. We were in a crunch time. And he was definitely burning the candle at both ends. And he was someone that needed a, heart-to-heart talk, but not at work. So I said, hey, you're done for the day. Come on, we're going to get food. We're going to go have a meal, just you and me. And I sat him down and I said, look, you can, don't get me wrong. Love the work that you're putting in, but there's going to come a point where that work that you're putting in just completely obliterates you. And you know how I know this? I did this. So I'm, and it's going to obliterate you. And then your career and everything's going to be off kilter for a while until you get this like imbalance. So you've got to find boundaries that make sense, because everyone's burnout point is wildly different. And the circumstances make that wildly different, right? It could be like what Dagley's saying, hey, is everybody doing their job or is it just this guy? that's taking on everything. But I think managers have a tendency to, manage from afar too often, and they don't take that personal approach at times, and do some mentoring, not managing, right? Hey, let's sit down and have a real conversation about what it is that you think you're getting out of working like this, because I guarantee you're not getting what you think. You're not getting. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I say the other side too is like finding the reason, like why are they doing this? What is the thought process behind it? Like there was a time managing where this was back in the restaurant where all of a sudden this person's putting in all these hours and doing these things, and it's like, hey, why? Like we're salaried for 50 hours, which is a lot, but you're putting in way of this, and like why? What are you accomplishing? And turns out he was having issues at home, and this was his escape because he didn't want to be at a terrible situation at home, and work was the escape, but not a healthy escape, but it was there. But right. The other thing too, based off of this is like, is there a lack of trust? Like how can we build trust in the team so you're comfortable with delegating some of these things? But like you said, having those personal conversations and the mentorship and finding the root of why they're doing this, or maybe they don't realize they're doing it.
Yeah. One of the things that helped me was just kind of like taking some control back by doing time blocking and holding myself really close to those. So I just had a discussion about this actually yesterday about adopting systems like the Trident calendar system for scheduling, so that you plan out what that ideal day looks like, and do those time blockings to hold yourself accountable. The other thing is taking back control over your notifications. So like I stopped wearing a smartwatch just because I was so tired of being beholden or feeling beholden every time a new message came in one way or another. And I think there's a lot to be said for people approaching their burnout to take a look at those types of things to kind of at least gain some sanity back.
Yeah, and I would say that burnout is most often self-inflicted, right? It's the mind saying, "Oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this." It's typically not somebody telling you have to do this. I'm sure that situation comes up, but whether it's I'm trying to prove myself, or I'm trying to make the situation better, or whatever the case is, oftentimes it's an internal issue that needs to be dealt with, and not an external issue that you can control, right?
I mean, I'll be open and honest because this literally just came up for me. So my Facebook memories, 4 years ago, I had the best run I've ever had in my life, where I ran like a 6:30 50K, which is incredible. And now 4 years later, I'm trying to get back on the running train, but I've gained, 80 some pounds and all of that. And really what it came down to was a self-inflicted burnout. I wasn't happy at my previous job. I was looking for jobs. I was spending, all of this time, like trying to work at like being better at my job, but also looking for jobs, joining communities, literally reading everything. Like if I joined Discord, a new Discord for community, I would have to read everything. Like nothing would have to be on red, and like being on top of that, and all those notifications. I didn't want to miss something. I wanted to be on top of everything, and it was really affecting my physical and my mental health. And I didn't realize it. And now I'm in a much better place. But looking back, it's like, man, that year really did a toll on me, and it didn't need to. And it would have been nice to like step back and have someone like, hey, take your time and be good with it. But like it happens, and it happens quicker than you think, than without realizing it.
Yeah, especially in the one thing I would add. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No, you're good. Just to start to wrap on this, one thing I would add is it's helped to remind some of the employees that unless you own the company, you don't necessarily have, like, it's not on you to get everything done with the staff you have, right? Like, you know how we're going to find out we need to hire more people? By noticing that our ticket response times got too long, and if you're saving the world and putting your cape on, we might not even realize that you're so burned out that you can't cover anything and we need more coverage, right? Like, it really helped to paint that picture for some of my employees who are starting to burn out. Say, look, it's okay. It's not okay to let deadlines slip. We don't want them to. But if you're actually at capacity, let it be at capacity, and that can be the signal that we're understaffed. We won't even know necessarily otherwise.
Yeah, no, that hits home for me because I started my career off in internal IT in organizations that I had no equity and uh, and because of my personal approach to things, I absolutely took more ownership than I should have, and burned myself out very quickly. I mean, there were days I'd wake up the next morning at my desk, um, trying to fulfill those things, and it took having a mentor to be like, look, this is not your baby at the end of the day, and if you need the help that you need, uh, we need to have those discussions with management.
Well, we got one more story here. Like I said, I always try to end things on a fun note. So one way that we might be able to reduce burnout is with in-office team building activities. So this is one where, whether you guys do more of a remote work or internal, but what are some of the more successful team building activities that you guys have had? Or on the flip side, do you think these are dumb and they shouldn't happen?
I think you need to ask your staff.
Yeah. Dave just summed it up. They're not dumb. They just have to be genuine, right? Like it can't be just some gimmicky thing that you heard in a business book or something. Like if your team wants to do it, that's different.
I mean, I can't fix everything with a pizza party.
You can fix a lot with a pizza party.
As I've learned doing IR games, is pizza parties can actually be a PTSD trigger if you're throwing those during an incident.
Yeah, no, we do team activities, but it's all been based off of feedback that we've gotten from the employees as far as what they actually enjoy doing versus forcing them into something that, as you said, just feels disingenuous. Tabletops are always great. We also do we have a lot of electronic recycling that comes back to us, and we have a partner that we work with on that. But we're kind of a mediary for a lot of that equipment. So once a year, we do a office space day where everyone gets to break out a bat and a golf club and have at some equipment. So things like that I think can be fun, but it's got to be something that you have buy-in on.
Yeah, Henry, you should check those OSHA rules.
Yeah, I always make sure our insurance is paid up before that.
Yeah, I think we've done various like fun activities and stuff, but oftentimes they miss the mark, right? You're trying to build a team and team camaraderie and that type of stuff, but I've been in those where I go, oh my God, why are we doing this? And then I've also been in ones that are like, wow, this was really, really cool. I would love to do this again. So, but I think having a conversation with the staff and saying, hey, listen, we're thinking about doing something fun. What's everybody want to do? Because if you do this in a vacuum and then you oftentimes end up with results that 7 of your staff is like, yeah, that was the stupidest thing ever. Like, why would we do that? So I think you have to plan it out with information that is going to make it successful.
Absolutely. But I do think that they're important to have. So like my MSP, I would say 60 to 70% are in the Southern California region and the rest of us are remote. And we try very hard. Culture is very important to our company. And we do, weekly lunch and learns and, our daily stand-ups and focus recognition. And then there's a lot that goes into it. But there's nothing that's as powerful as just getting together. I mean, last year we had we flew out quite a few of the employees and just had a parking lot party, or we had like supper with the individual teams. And I've been working with these people for a year and a half at this point, and I, got closer to them in those 2 days than we have in a remote environment. So getting some sort of face-to-face is, I think, incredibly powerful, even if it's as simple as, going out to a steak dinner one night, or having some sort of just kind of get together. But there's many cool things, like, what are your employees like? Is it just like a video game party? Is it a hard drive shooting range day, or a rage room, or something like that? Obviously that's going to depend on your organization, but some even will do it during work hours because some of their employees don't want to give up their nights and weekends to spend more time at work. But find what works to you. But I think it is important to have those icebreakers and team building exercises. It does raise that camaraderie and that culture.
What's the your favorite thing that you guys have ever done as far as like a team building or team activity?
I would say that I've done a lot, but back in the call center days, the funnest thing we did, and this was like super hot for like 5 minutes, but there's these remote control sharks that float in the air. So it's like a nylon balloon shark. And we made this obstacle course, and we basically just took turns like racing to see who could get the best time in racing this like remote controlled air shark through the obstacle course. And it was a blast to just cheer on and talk shit to your coworkers and things like that. I mean, I've done a lot, but that stands out to me as like the most unique and fun thing I've been a part of.
That's awesome.
I think my favorite was I was at a pretty large insurance company, and the CEO, the COO, and the CFO served everybody hot fudge sundaes, and they were scooping ice cream, and people were having a blast and just laughing about like, oh, look at them, that people were spraying people with whipped cream. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Sometimes it's the simple things, right? You don't have to be elaborate or complex. It's really just simple connections is all you're trying to get.
Yeah. Matt?
I always liked going to sports events, probably because I'm a sports fan, but we would occasionally go to a minor league baseball stadium right near our old office. That was a lot of fun. Seemed to work well. Back when we were small, we could do things like take the whole company out to a restaurant without having to like rent the place out. That was fun too. Or when a new employee joined, we'd all go out to lunch together. Those kind of things seem to work better for us than some kind of like grandiose team building thing.
Yeah,
all right. Well, go ahead.
Around. Oh yeah, I guess we're up on time. Sorry.
Real quick, finish it up, and then we'll do our plugs, and we'll get on out of here because I'm sure we're all busy.
Yep. Nope. Sorry. I was just gonna say that one of my favorite ones that we did was around the Taste of Chicago, taking everyone off for the afternoon and going up there and letting people pick some of the food that I tried, and some of the conversations around that. So appreciate that. All right, let's wrap this up.
I have no plugs, so you can save time there.
All right, let's bring up the wall of plugs here, and we'll go through them real quick. I know going on right now, just off the top of my head, we have day 3 of Rejection Con. Please check that out if you haven't already. It's 100% free to join. If you do want to donate, 100% of the proceeds go to the Rural Tech Fund, and there's some incredible speakers there. So we have MSP GeekCon coming up in a few weeks here in May. There's an MSP show in London that Henry's going to be speaking at. And then after that, one that Matt has no idea about. So I'll let him know. It's IT Nation Secure, where I will actually be speaking as well at that. And that was a joke. Matt
I should probably go to that.
Matt's been working day and night, burning the candle at both ends to make sure that is going to be an incredible conference. I know I'm very excited about that. So that's all for me, other than check out IR Game. That's where I'm headed to next. So Henry, Matt, anything I missed that you want to say?
No, you covered it, Josh.
Perfect. Well, Dave, fantastic having you on. As always, great seeing you guys every Friday. I look forward to this every week. So thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your day and weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
Thanks.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.